Hi folks, today's video is all about creating a book cover design brief. So if you are a self-published author, this is a really important process to go through. It is standard in traditional publishing, to have a brief for a book cover designer or a team of book cover designers, and I would highly recommend that you do the same. If you're working with a professional book cover designer, they will go through this process with you anyway, and if you can have a brief up front already, that is fantastic. So this is a follow-on from my previous video about finding a book cover designer and reaching out to them. So I'll link that in the cards if you want to go and watch that first. This is a follow-on. Having a brief can help you to save a lot of time, and it can help save your book cover designer a lot of time as well. It means a lot less going back and forth on different things. So these are the key things that you need to include in your book design brief. The first things are your title and your author's name. If you're publishing under a pen name, it's a really good idea to tell your designer that now, because you don't want them putting the wrong name on your book. Likewise, they'll need to know the genre. So if it's sci-fi, if it's fantasy, if it's romance, if it's literary fiction, poetry, whatever, that's really important to know because it will inform a lot of the decisions along the way. If you have an author website, it's really important to include that in the brief. That's going to be super helpful for the designer, as well as any social media links you have. If you don't have a website or social media links, don't panic, but it is really important and a really useful thing to have, so I'd recommend looking into that, maybe even before you look to get a book cover designer on board. Let them know how many designs you require. If this is the first in a series, that's really useful to know, because a designer will create a design that can be replicated in different ways so that the whole series has an identity. So if you know you're writing a trilogy and this is the first one, tell them that. And let your designer know where this design is going to be used. If it's ebook only, then there are certain specifications and certain things that need to be kept in mind while designing for ebooks as opposed to paperbacks or anything else. And if it's both, then those things all need to be kept in mind. So that's really important. You should also include your blurb and a synopsis if possible. Now, you may not have completely finished writing your book at this point, but there should be enough information to have a synopsis of the story, so that goes through all the plot points, and a blurb, which is what will go on the back of your book. Giving your book cover designer a sense of the tone is really useful as well, because that will inform the kind of visual decisions they're making. On a more technical side, it's useful to know what size the finished book is going to be, what format it's going to be, again, ebook, hardback, paperback, etc., as well as where it will be sold. Are you going to be marketing it to bookshops, to other retail shops, or is it all going to be online? Again, that will be a factor in how they design your book. If you have any other print specifications, for instance, maybe you would like some gold foiling on the cover or some spot UV, or you're looking for particular laminates or finishes on the cover. If you're going to include anything like gold foil, it's really important to let your designer know this up front, because that will impact the way they set up their layered files in Photoshop or whatever program they're working in. If you know what the final file format is going to be, let them know that as well. It's usually a PDF for print and a JPEG for an Amazon thumbnail, or you might need a PNG. You may need a series of different final files. So if you can put that in the brief, that's really useful to be able to look back on and just be prepared that that's how the files need to be exported. If you need the layered files as well, put that in, because that will impact the price most likely. If you do require all the layered files and the designer has worked with, say, stock images, that's going to impact the price, because they're going to have to charge you for the rights to that image as well. It's helpful for your designer to know how many people need to sign off your design. If you're working with, say, a marketing team and they need to be able to say, yes, we're happy with this cover, then it's helpful to know that ahead of time and not get a nasty surprise later when you've said you love the design, but then, oh no, my marketing team says that it's not up to scratch or doesn't suit the book or whatever. So include that if that is a factor. The final two things to include would be your target demographic, and you can get really quite specific on this. If you have, that model of the one perfect reader for your book, include that. And if you have a more general idea, okay, so this is going to appeal to young women between the ages of 18 and 25 because it deals with the dilemma of going from childhood to adulthood, that kind of thing, then put that in as well. All those details are really important, and it will impact the color choices, the typography choices, so many things within the cover. And finally, give your designer some comparable titles within your genre. This is really useful for the design process, looking at, again, the kinds of colors that are used, the kinds of typography. And, if somebody loves this book and your book looks similar, then they're going to connect those in their minds. And that's what book cover design does. It's not to copy an existing design by any means, and that is not something you should ask your book cover designer to do because it's immoral and possibly illegal, but it is something that's worth bearing in mind, and it's a useful marketing tool. All right, folks, those are the key things to include in your book cover design brief. If you're a cover designer and you go through a similar process or you do something a little bit differently, do let me know down in the comments. It's always fascinating to know how different people do it. I think I've covered the main things that are important to know. If you're interested in my design services, all the details are down in the description. My website is there, my Instagram, and there is more information for indie authors on my website as well. As I said earlier, this is a part of a series, so if you would like to subscribe, you'll be seeing more of these coming very soon on self-publishing and book design. As always, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!